Hey, coffee makers. I'm Dr. Constance St Germain, president of Capella University, and I am ready to dive into it. My path has been anything but linear. I'm a proud U.S. Army veteran who served in the JAG Corps, and now I have the honor of being the first veteran to lead Capella University. My mission is clear: to help make education accessible for all. But today, I'm especially thrilled to talk about my journey in leadership, educational technology advances in higher ed, and the impact of AI. So let's skip the warm up and talk about how we can revolutionize leadership right here on the Cyber Coffee Hour.
All right, what's good, coffee makers, not coffee takers? You are locked into the Cyber Coffee Hour, where we brew up insights and community in the digital world. I'm the People's Chief, Dr. Joseph J. Burt-Miller Jr., and I have the one and only master of cyber farms, Alfredzo B. Nash Jr. We both hail from the legendary streets of Mount Vernon, New York, but we're coming to you live and direct from the DMV area. So our mission is simple: is to share knowledge, understanding, and foster a vibrant community in cyberspace. So grab your mug and let's brew. All right, so for today's show, we're going to have a coffee chat with Capella University President Dr. Constance St Germain. Dr. Constance St Germain is the president of Capella University. She joined Capella in 2017, previously serving as Chief Academic Officer and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs. Her career includes leadership roles at the University of Phoenix and American Public University System. As a U.S. Army veteran, she served as an attorney in the Judge Advocate General's Corps for nearly a decade. Dr. St. Germain is passionate about advancing women's leadership in higher education, which is the focus for her doctoral research. She's an active community leader on boards, including the Minnesota Animal Humane Society and the American Red Cross. She holds a Doctor of Education from Benedictine University, a Juris Doctor from the University of Baltimore, and a Bachelor's from George Mason University. Dr. Constance St. Germain, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thank you, Dr. J, for having me. And I have to say, I love the
Welcome.
I love your Capella University diploma right behind the certificate there. It is awesome, proudly displayed. I love it.
Of course, all the time, absolutely. So I have to say I just want to say thank you so much because I know it's been some time in the making to make today happen. So I'm very glad that I was able to make this happen today. And I know you're very busy with everything you have to do. Of course, you run a whole university, so I definitely get it. So I appreciate you coming through. But just before we get started, I just want to know just how things have been for you, as of late.
Things have been great as of late. Higher ed is going through such a transformative period right now. I think it's been a long time coming. And it's really fun to be on this journey. It's almost like a little bit of a roller coaster right now to see how we're really evolving with everything going on with AI, for example. I think it's a really interesting topic. I know we're going to delve into later. It's a fun time. It's a fun time to be in higher ed.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, if you look back at least maybe 10, 15 years ago, the biggest word of the day was cloud. Everyone was trying to migrate to cloud, and now it's AI. I'm very interested in what maybe the next 10 years down the line, what the next keyword is going to be. But no, yeah. And I think, just looking at it, just the whole general landscape, every organization now is trying to have some sort of solution, some sort of AI solution, and how they're going to implement it into their workflows. So yeah, it's you could tell some organizations are trying to, it's almost like a race. They're trying to maybe try to be that first one to do it. Sometimes it could be a detriment because yes, they go in first, but you find a lot of holes or a lot of issues with that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops, especially as it matures and everyone really has a good understanding and how it works. And also how you really safeguard and protecting that data too. For if you're looking at particular organizations and what their area of responsibility is when they're using AI, how they use it responsibly, and making sure that they're not putting themselves, I guess, in danger or in any sort of trouble because of AI. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, but as for me, I just been staying busy. I've been I actually I launched a new website. I guess a separate project for myself. It's called Talawa Cyber. Actually,
Really?
yeah, yeah. So that's yeah. So I started that. So I've been running like a cybersecurity certification community on
That's right, on
Discord.
Discord, right? Right. I
Yeah.
remember you saying that. Right.
So yeah, so for one, when I started that, so the previously it was named the DRJJBMJ, so that's pretty much my whole initials study hall. So that's the previous name. But I started that just I started out of really a necessity because at the time I was pursuing my PMP, and I was just looking for folks just to study with, just to 'cause I wanted to make sure I passed this thing. So I rounded up a couple of folks I looked on LinkedIn, and we just got together and studied, and we after time passed, we all eventually took the exam and passed it, and then it's kind of used the same formula, made adjustments, and more people started joining, like word of mouth type of thing, and it really grew. So now as time went on, I was like, okay, now maybe I need to actually like legalize or formalize this thing. So I added so I got an LLC behind it now. I changed the name, and really trying to do some work, and hopefully to, especially within the cybersecurity field, other professionals, other leaders, try to partner with other cyber organizations as well to make sure that also from the community perspective too, I want to make sure that people are getting the resources that they need so they can advance or even establish their cybersecurity career. So it's really good. Also do a lot of things. I have my two sons, they're helping me.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, they're helping with the social media aspects. I mean, my son Xavier, he's gonna be doing the TikTok stuff. I was like, all right, you can
Oh,
do the TikTok.
that's a
Yeah,
younger generation. You
yeah.
definitely need them to help you with that. I get that.
So, so I was like, you guys got it. I'll let you guys cook. You guys do it. You know, I just the only thing I asked is let me see the post before you put it out there. Let me approve it. Outside of that, yeah, we're good to go. So,
That's great. That is great.
all right. So let's go ahead and get started here. So, as the first military veteran to lead Capella University, how have your experiences in the Judge Advocate General Corps shaped your approach to higher education and leadership, particularly in creating inclusive learning environments?
Mm. No, that's a great question. I think I bring a very unique perspective. One thing that higher education, I would say, has struggled with traditionally, and I'm making a generalization here, is that there's not a lot of leadership training that goes on within higher education. So, preparing people, for example, to become department chairs or program directors, right? And then provosts and eventually presidents. And so, it's one of the things that the military does really well. And so I really give all of my acknowledgement in terms of my leadership skills directly to the military. Everything I learned about leadership was because of the great officers and non-commissioned officers that I had the privilege of serving with during my years of service. It taught me a lot about moving forward, about working with teams, and really bringing people together from diverse backgrounds for a common good, right? And we want everybody to raise everybody up as we move forward. And that's a little bit how I think about higher education as well, in terms of when we're looking at creating an inclusive environment. It's about creating a leveling playing field and meeting people where they're at to bring out the absolute best in them, right? To
Right.
connect with them and motivate them to do their best. And that's what we focus on here at Capella University.
No, I think that's amazing to make sure that you know because going through that process is already arduous. So to make sure that people have that support that they need, and to know that they have that backing, and to know, because when you're going through those tough times, to know that you have people that root for you, and you have a good support system. I think that means a lot. So I think that's great. Um,
And
so
I don't know if you went through this, Dr. J, but one of
mhm.
the things I always tell doctoral students is if you don't cry at least once while you're getting your doctorate,
Oh
then you're not
yeah.
doing it right. Right. I think people only see the success, right? So they're looking at you now and they're like, oh, he's got his doctorate. And they don't know about all the hours that you questioned yourself. And you're like, what am I doing? What have I done to myself? I made a horrible mistake. This is too hard. They only see the end result, but not everything that goes on in the middle. And I think that is one of the things as a leader that you should lead off and let people know, right? It is hard. That's why not everybody's walking around with a doctorate, but you can do it if you commit to it and you push forward. And look where you are now, right? You earned your degree.
Believe me, I have cried multiple times in a corner. Okay.
I did too. So you are not alone. Everybody cries at least several times.
And when you mentioned about whether you question yourself, because even for the military, for myself, I'm an Air Force veteran, and I had that question from the first day when I got to San Antonio, and when those TIs, they yelling at you, come out the bus, and I'm like, yo, what did I do?
Right. You made a horrible mistake, but you push through, right? And then you persevere. And I think every time you can push through those hard areas, you unlock, right, the next level of yourself. And that's what really helps build resilience.
Absolutely, for sure. So, Dr. St. Germain, how is Capella University leveraging artificial intelligence to enhance the competency-based education model? And like what guardrails are you implementing to ensure AI tools support rather than replace critical thinking skills?
This is such an interesting question right now because there's a lot of discourse going on in higher ed about artificial intelligence and what it actually means, right? So if
Right.
you read inside higher ed, you have professors now that are saying, oh, I'm going back to old school blue books. I don't know if you remember blue books, Dr. J, but like that back, I'm dating myself now by saying this, but that's when you actually had to write with a pen and paper in a tiny blue book. And then
Oh
the
no, that's
faculty
before
member
for
would
me.
yeah, would collect it at the end of the test. That's how they controlled everything, right? They would
Okay.
give you the questions in course, and then you'd have to handwrite out everything. So we have faculty members who are doing that to faculty members who are completely embracing AI. I would say Capella is right now definitely on the adoption side. I am very excited about artificial intelligence, but to some of your earlier comments, we're still learning. It's so new. If you look at the adoption, how quickly AI was adopted in terms of when you compare it to other technologies,
Mhm.
we're still learning about it as it's growing every single day, and we're learning the use cases for it. But I don't think it's going anywhere, right? It's just going to even proliferate even more into every aspect of our lives. And so I think we'd be doing a disservice to students in general if we didn't embrace it. And so we do it in a couple of different ways. One, for example, we launched a BS in computer science. To do that, we are in the process right now of integrating AI into over 87 courses
Oh
in
wow.
our information and technology program about how to use AI, how to think about AI. But we also have our students, we wanted them to use it smartly and ethically.
Right.
So we have launched academic integrity campaigns, right? Because when people go and they commit to a learning journey, we don't want them to shortchange themselves. It's a huge commitment for them personally, financially, right? And if you're going to invest in your own education, wouldn't you want to make sure you get the most out of it? Right. And so that's really
Exactly.
been at the cusp of our academic integrity campaign. But that being said, we know that students are using it every day. The majority of our students are working
Mm.
adults, right? And they have access to Microsoft Copilot. They're using it at work to help them write emails. But we also want them to critically think because
Right.
that AI sometimes hallucinates. And so they need to understand how to ask the right questions, how to critically think about the responses that they're getting back, right? And to be open and transparent as well about their use, right? And when they use it in the course room, they should acknowledge it with the faculty member, make sure that they are giving proper attribution to it, right? So it's really more, I'd say, of a learning partner for them, AI, rather than a substitute for their learning, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think like with anything, it should be AI should be looked at more as a tool. It shouldn't
Yes.
replace like what you're doing.
Yes.
And I think when we talk about, you get into like prompt engineering to know like what are the sort of questions you need to ask. And as you keep going, depending on the subject you're on, but to make sure that you're getting the right output and to know when you're and look out, not to completely just do a copy and
100%.
paste, because as you mentioned, AI will hallucinate if
Right.
it's trying to describe something it doesn't really know much about. I mean, it's gonna give you an output. Whether it's correct or not, you have to make sure you're doing your due diligence and you're fact checking and make sure it's good. I know some folks, like with all the different tools. I know you mentioned
I lost
Microsoft
you. Are you still there?
Copilot. If you look at tools like maybe like Perplexity, that's one of my favorite ones, honestly, because I like that one because it actually gives you sources. For each output, it gives you a link to the source where it pulled it from, so you can actually go to that link and check it out. Yeah. So far, that's the only one I know that does that. My second favorite is Claude.
Oh, I love Claude too. Claude is
Yeah.
fantastic too for writing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very helpful. Yes.
And I know those folks who do like code,
Mhm.
they like programming. I think Claude is a favorite one for that as well. So yeah, it's just a matter of just making sure you're utilizing it in a, I say, in an ethical way. Yeah, you're gonna use it to support, not replace what you're doing. To maybe to enhance it, but also, as you said, like to make sure that you get that attribution. We shouldn't um try to feel, I don't know, I don't want to say, I don't want to say shame. I don't know if shame is the right word, but um I mean, just recognize it's there. People utilize it. I mean, to understand, just like when you're writing a paper and you're giving credit to a source that you pulled it from. It's
Right.
kind of like the same thing. You're giving a source. Okay, I use this. I use AI for this section. I mean, why try to I guess hide it? I mean, it's there. People use it. Just make sure you're giving the proper attribution for whenever you use it. That's all.
I had a great experience myself. So I am not in the IT field like you, but I noticed that there was a need within the university, and wanted to write code to address this issue that we were having. So I wanted to create a little app. And over 3 weeks, here I am with no experience, no IT experience whatsoever. I was able to write the code in Python,
Okay.
develop the app and put it in GitHub, did all that, and went ahead and launched it. And I turned it over to IT so they could build it out even more. I had a very like an MVP to do it. But
Yeah.
I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't spent hours working with ChatGPT. And it was funny because there were times I was telling people this, there were times I'd get frustrated when we were working on the code, and it would actually say to me, it sounds like you're getting frustrated right now, Constance. Maybe take a break and come back to this, right? And I
Really?
thought it was such a great coach, right? And then I'd like take a break and I'd come back and I'd be like, okay, I'm back. I'm feeling a lot better now. And it'd be like, all right, we're ready to hit it. You're so close. I know that we'll be able to work this bug out, right? And it was so motivational. And I just thought it was such a great teacher at the end of it. So I
Wow.
think that's a really, just in terms of like democratizing learning and teaching me something new that I've never done at my ripe old age. And I was so proud of myself. So yeah, I had a wonderful experience doing that.
No, that's amazing. I can't say I've experienced that. I have noticed like some of the feedback because I've had all the tools. I haven't used Chat GPT all that much. I use it here and there, but not as much as I mentioned, like Claude and Perplexity. Also, I use a bit of Gemini too, Google Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini is nice too.
But yeah, I haven't used ChatGPT. I mean, I have used it, but not as much. That and Copilot. Probably Copilot is probably the least. I'd probably use that one the least. All right. So with your background, spanning traditional and online education institutions, what are the most promising AI innovations that could help, non-traditional students overcome barriers to degree completion while maintaining academic rigor?
Mm. That's such a great question. I think that when I look at, this goes back to what we were just talking about earlier. When I look at everything that's been going on in AI, just being able to personalize learning, right? AI can meet people where they're at. If you know how to give the correct prompts, right? You have to know how to
Right.
ask the right questions, but you take a really hard subject, let's say statistics, and you can ask AI to explain it to you and say, pretend I was 18 years old. with no knowledge of this? How would you explain this difficult concept, right? Again, you have to know how to ask the question to do that. And so it really almost becomes like a tutor in that sense of meeting you where you're at and then building upon the knowledge as you go forward. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing with AI is leveraging that and the ability to consume information. And what I mean by that is I think back again, I'm making myself sound so old. I think back to the old days. When you were talking earlier, I was just laughing at the beginning because I remember working off of a typewriter, an electric typewriter, and having to use whiteout, okay, on my
Yeah, yeah.
papers. All right, so that was a nightmare every time you made a mistake.
All right.
Um, but I think about how limited we were, like Encyclopedia Britannicas. That's all you had in your house, or you had to go to the library, right?
Right.
Now you can ask AI using the right questions, and it can literally access every document on the internet and give you a
Mhm.
summary, right? A high level summary of everything that you need to know, which can help inform as a starting point to your research and your level of knowledge that you need. How amazing! It helps you work smarter, faster, consume more information. You have access to things that you otherwise would never have ever had in past several centuries. So super interesting time. I think though the academic integrity and rigor I think is only going to be protected if we have people be open and transparent about their use of it. I think
Right.
anytime you try to prohibit people from using it, they automatically want to do it, right? Think of a child. You tell them, no, you can't do that. They automatically want to do it
Absolutely.
with it. And so teaching them how to use it is going to be the biggest thing moving forward. And I think we're going to learn even more. It shouldn't be used as a gotcha tool, like it says here that you used it. I think if faculty really want to use AI, they need to, when they have those moments where they have students who might have copy and pasted right directly from into it,
Yeah.
they need to say, I know you did this. I want you to tell me what prompt you used, right?
Mm.
Show me the questions you asked. These are not the right questions, right? And here's how you need to think about this differently going forward. And I want to see your own critical thinking in it. That those type of teachable moments, I think, is what then people are just going to be more transparent and honor academic integrity even more, rather than, you don't want to use it as a tool to punish, but really as a tool to help them learn and grow and become better at the use of it.
Right.
And that's the big thing. And so it's not just students we need to embrace, we need faculty to embrace it as well
Right.
and understand how it can make them even be better faculty and better teachers. Because AI can be a great teacher. When you go to it and say, hey, I'm trying to explain this concept, right? And my students don't seem to be getting it. A lot of them are failing this quiz, for example, right? Or they're stuck in this thing. How could I approach this better? And learn that way to make them even better, and so they can spend more time on creating those transformational moments with their students and connecting and engaging with them on a personal level.
No, I love that because and that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, where you're not shaming per se people for
Yeah,
using AI,
right.
but yeah, you embrace it, you acknowledge it. Okay, yes, we know. If anything, we're encouraging people to use it, but we want to make sure we're using it in the right manner. And it's not sacrificing your critical thinking. We're making sure that we're still using it because I'm almost thinking of almost like when we had to write papers and you have like plagiarism checkers, like
Mm-hmm.
to make sure
Mm-hmm.
you're not just you're just copy and pasting from another work. You still getting credit to it. So I kind of think it's almost the same thing. It's you're you're using AI. It's there. Like we know people are using it, so don't. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to try to assume like you wrote this 10-page paper and it's all been written by AI. And I
Right.
think we got to the point now we can kind of tell when something is written by AI. When I've used it, as I mentioned, as I'm leading study sessions, and even from my own personal studying, where if I get like a question wrong, and it
Mm-hmm.
gives me an explanation, but maybe I don't feel like the explanation is sufficient.
Exactly.
I'll copy that and put it into most times, like I said, I use either Gemini or Claude, and I'll throw it in there and I ask I have a prompt that I have saved. It's almost like a prompt, like cookbook. Like, so I don't have to like, yeah, because the ones I know that work best for me for what I'm doing, I'll save it. So that way I just copy and paste that prompt. I throw it in there. Yeah, and then it gives me so now in this scenario, it gives me a detailed explanation of why this question was wrong or why it was right too. Because sometimes, you get may do like a practice test, you get a question right. You may not know why you got it right. You just kind of lucked into it. But if you really want to learn, you want to know exactly why you did. So yeah, so be able to kind of break down, give you more detailed explanation, and a lot of times, especially like I said when I mentioned about using Perplexity, I'll ask you to say, hey, give me like a reference, like where I could cross reference this in like the latest CISSP book or study guide or whatever, so I can do some reading on my own. So I mean, it's just stuff like that to help you enhance, really develop your learning and to think more critically. So again, it's not replacing what you're doing, but it's really just enhancing and helping you to be better at, at whatever, subject matter
It can augment your learning. It's
right.
really no different. Like I think back to the old days when we used to have study groups, right? And you always had that one person in your study group who was like, the brilliant person.
Oh yeah.
And they would always just get it, and then you'd be stuck on something, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me tell you," right? And then they'd be coaching you through or walking you through, like, this is the problem. Here's where you went wrong. Here's how you have to think. So it's almost like your smart friend in the study group, who's helping you. But to your point, you have to ask the right questions, and most people don't understand that. The more detailed information you give it about the questions, right, the better feedback you're going to get. And I think that's a really key takeaway.
Right. And and when you talk about earlier about, AI hallucinations, and that's where it comes in, where you're not giving it enough to work with. Like I said, the AI tool is going to give you something. It's not going to come out blank and not say anything. It's going to give you something. What now, whether it's right or not, that's the question. So yeah, you do want to make sure you give very detailed instructions to the AI tool that you're using to ensure. And also, again, even with doing all that, you still want to have a human element where you are verifying, maybe just doing cross check and make sure everything is still good. Because even I've noticed now with a lot of these tools now, it will have a little disclaimer saying, AI might get it wrong or something like that.
Yes, and I've actually had that. There was a project I was working on, and I asked for feedback, and then I was like, that can't be right. That just can't be right, like what AI said. And so I asked it, I said, this doesn't seem to be right. Go back and double check your work. And I was surprised it actually came back and goes, oh, you're correct. I didn't include X, Y, and Z, right? Like in the calculation. And I thought, ooh, good thing that I had asked it to go back and recheck itself, because otherwise, right, if I hadn't had that critical thinking, I just could have taken it face value. It would have been wrong.
Now, have you ever done a comparison against like two different models? So I use the same question, but compare the output against like Gemini versus Claude, or like have you ever done a scenario like that?
Not necessarily like that, but when I was writing that code, when I was trying to create the reviewer tool that I told you about earlier, when I would get frustrated, because sometimes when I was trying to debug a line of code, like I felt like it was ChatGPT was getting caught in a loop. So then I would take it out, and then I would go to Gemini, and I would say, this is the code, this is the line that's getting stuck, tell me what's wrong. And I would get sometimes different answers, which was really interesting, but it would fix it.
So Gemini fixed.
Right. Which was very interesting. So I don't know if it, because I was working on the code over and over again, somehow I got caught in a loop, but I was able to go into Gemini and fix it with its help and then bring it back into ChatGPT. So it was really interesting. I'd be like, what? And I don't know if I told you this either. I asked ChatGPT what it wanted to be called, and it said Alex. So when I would get frustrated with Alex, I was like, okay, I'm going over to Gemini. And then I need a break from you, Alex. I can't deal with you anymore, right? And then I go over to Gemini, and it was just like, whoo, fresh start, and give me, good information. I go back. But how about you? Have you ever had an experience
where it gets it,
where you've like asked it the same thing in two different?
oh yeah, absolutely. I've done that because I was always curious, just to see what the different outputs would be. So I've compared Claude against Gemini. I've even initially I tried using the one from Microsoft. I don't know why I'm forgetting it. Microsoft's AI tool. I don't know why I'm forgetting it now.
The Copilot?
Copilot, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know why I forgot that one. But yeah, it shows you how much I use it.
But you don't like it.
Right, exactly. It shows you how much I use it, right? But yeah, I do recall I'm just doing comparison just to see. Yeah, I would use the same prompt and just want to compare the output from each LLM. And yeah, there were some models I've noticed, especially like with Claude, I'll get more of a detailed, maybe a more of a comprehensive output from Claude. ChatGPT was good too.
I will tell you about Claude that you're mentioning. If you ask Claude to rewrite something, it rewrites things much better than ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
Just much more succinct. I mean, it just has beautiful writing.
Yeah.
Which I would say ChatGPT's writing feels a little bit more parochial, not as sophisticated, is how I would compare the two.
I would, I definitely agree with that for sure. Yeah. All right. So, given your service on multiple community boards alongside your university leadership, how do you envision strengthening the connection between online universities like Capella and their local communities, even when students may be geographically dispersed?
Just because you're online doesn't mean that you can't be connected to your community. And so we have a wonderful head of career and alumni. Her name is Jessica Hunter, and she has been working so hard to build a strong and engaged alumni group, I would say, at Capella University. And we host events, for example. And so a lot of our programs lead to licensure, and as part of their licensure component, they have to have an on-site component. We call them residencies. So we have students come from around the country, hundreds of students come from around the country. The last one was in Orlando and Florida, and they were there for several days. And so we held volunteer events at local nonprofits, for charities where these students could take time out and work within the community there. We've also in the past held volunteer day. We have a huge campaign called Together for Good, and a couple of years ago we had a really nice event where we asked alumni who were volunteering around the time that our Together for Good campaign was going on, where they were volunteering, right, in their local communities. How were they giving back, and could they post a picture of themselves? And we got a lot of great responses for that. So using use a social network. We have what's known as a Capella Fellows program here, where we offer scholarships to nonprofits around the country, so that their people can apply, and if they're granted, they can go get their master's or their doctorate, so they can come back and work in their nonprofit and be even better than they are in there. Those are all the ways that we try to drive engagement in the local communities through the university.
No, I think that's great. And I think we've had like probably the biggest experiments, maybe I guess social experiment, was during COVID, where everyone was forced to be, for the most part, be away from each other, but still trying to find a way to connect and to try to maintain that human connection. So, I mean, I could definitely recall during that time. At that time, I was working at DHS at that point in time, and for me, I was always a champion for like remote work, because especially if we're doing nothing but like PDFs and documents, I mean, we don't need to come into the office for this. We can do this from home. But so when that happened, we forced everyone to really to work from home. Some folks had a harder time because that was really the first time they really had to start using some of these these tools. Even others like me, it was perfect because this is what I wanted. But but as you're trying to find ways to maintain community, I remember we were doing like games. We had like online community stuff, like we did like games and stuff just to try to
love that,
just to maintain morale and stuff like that, and to make sure people weren't staying too down on themselves. Because again, it was a tough time. Yeah, I mean, so it's just things like that. I think there's always ways that we can try to find ways. You don't need to be right there next to someone to have a community. I mean, we see it all the time, especially if you look at like YouTube, like especially like certain YouTube channels. I've seen um, people from all over the world. They'll go into the live chat. It's on like the whole live chat function of YouTube is its own. I
Yes.
don't know, its own I guess function. I guess people they live there. We have Dr. Constance St Germain here on the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. Again, if you're tuning in as you're watching this, please like, share, and subscribe, and share this out with your friends, and make sure that they are following the Cyber Coffee Hour for the latest. So as we get into the back half of our episode here, we're learning a little bit more about Dr. St. Germain and what she's doing with Capella University, and also getting a little into just some more fun stuff as well that she does, what she likes to do outside of the everyday work as well. So Dr. St. Germain, so as AI tools become increasingly sophisticated, what are some, I guess, ethical considerations that higher education institutions may need to make? How is Capella University preparing for an AI integrated workplace while maintaining educational standards?
So we actually have developed an AI policy for
Oh,
our
nice.
faculty and for our students, because I think people are just confused about when can I use it? When can I not use it? When is it ethical? When is it not ethical? And so we developed this policy as really guardrails so people would understand here are the guardrails you can work between with that. And so
Right.
that's something that we just went published this year going out. I mean, obviously, right, you don't want to put, for example, with faculty, you want to make sure they know don't put personally identifiable student information, right?
Right.
Things like that that people don't necessarily think about all the time, or the implications of that. Same thing with students, don't put your personally identifiable information in there.
You'd be
And so
surprised.
that's it. Yeah, I know, right? And also just really thinking about how do we educate our students about cyber safety.
Right.
It's something that the cyber criminals are just becoming, more and more sophisticated as time goes on. We want to make sure that students aren't clicking on links that they from outside that may look like it's authentic from us, right? But should be suspicious. Again, think critically. Look at the
Right.
email address. Make sure that you don't respond to a smishing, a text message, things like that, because they're really, there's bad actors out there and they're trying to take advantage of everyone.
So I think that's great that you're doing having Capella's own AI policy when it comes to that. 'Cause I think that's very important. For one, it helps to kind of set the tone for the universities to let them know, okay, this is where we're going. So in terms of AI, we acknowledge it, but this is how we're going to implement it, how we're going to use it within our everyday workflows. And then to it, yeah, as you mentioned, it helps to answer the questions people may have, as you laid out, how we're going to utilize it, what are the do's and don'ts of it,
Mm-hmm.
what type of information we should give it or which we should not give it. So for me, working in the government space, when our previous director for NSA, General Nakasone, before he left, he implemented our own AI center for NSA. And for me, I was personally, maybe I was a little bit conflicted. I was both excited and also a little concerned too, because I was like, for us working in the intelligence community, the leaking of any sensitive information or classified information is very big. So I'm like, man, how are we gonna use AI, but then make sure it doesn't get out of our hands where adversaries or nation state actors can infiltrate our systems and use it
Right.
for bad or malicious intent. But so far, no, it's been working great, and we're starting to see more and more organizations, especially rolling out different specific policies and how we're going to utilize it. So I think that's very important to kind of lay out those, like the rules of the road per se, and how we're going to use it, and how we're going to leverage that going forward. So I think that's very important. So I guess one thing too, I was thinking about as you mentioned that is, so with that with AI, has there been an update, or have you considered maybe like an update when it comes to like like cybersecurity training, like having more AI elements in that as well?
Absolutely. And in fact, we have a couple specializations that we've launched just around AI, just to address that. to make
Perfect.
sure that we're skilling people up correctly. We also have 2 courses, believe it or not, that we offer for free: AI 1000, AI, I think 2000. And we had launched those at the beginning of last year, I think it was, or in the middle of last year. And it's open to, first, it was just for faculty, trying to show them how to do it. And then we had such a great response from faculty. We opened it up to all staff. And then students were like, well, I want to come too. I want to learn how to use AI and what should I know about it? And so it's open to everybody to come and take it. And we've had great response with people taking this course, just so they understand like what they need to know, how to use it going forward. And it's just one of the ways we're just trying to continuously educate the university population about what's going on in artificial intelligence.
How is Capella University integrating AI tools into its curriculum and classroom experiences, to prepare students for careers where human AI collaboration is really essential? What specific skills do you believe educators must, cultivate in students to help them thrive in a, AI-centered workforce?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that we just recently did was we've developed a bot that is
Okay.
on call basically when faculty aren't.
Hmm.
So, unfortunately, a lot of our students, because they work full time, are studying late at night, 11, 12 o'clock. Our faculty are
Oh
probably
yeah.
asleep, right? And they might have a question about something. How do I upload this? How do I find information related to X, Y, and Z assignment? And they can ask the bot this. And the
Nice.
bot will say, this is where you need to go. This is what you need to do. And so that's one of the ways that we've been doing it. And for our staff, for example, we've made Copilot accessible to them. And we're in the process of rolling out a secured ChatGPT to all of our staff. So it's behind our firewall and protected with that. So we are using it so we can find efficiencies in our daily administrative tasks from the staff side, whether it's through faculty scheduling, for example, whether it's personalized learning in the course room in that area, things like that. That's what we're working on right now.
No, I think that's great. And, I could have probably used that bot when I was going through my doctoral journey,
There's
because,
nothing worse than having to send an email late at night and then wait
yeah,
until the next day, right? Until
exactly. Yeah. So,
so they can respond right away. Yes.
no, but I think that's great, though. I think that's a perfect example of just showcasing what Capella University is doing as far as, like I said, just recognizing and embracing AI and how to make sure it's benefiting its students. So I think that's perfect. Um, what key challenges have you faced on your journey to success, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Faced a lot of challenges on my journey. I would say, I'd probably say one of the biggest challenges I ever faced was my husband. My first husband passed away when I was 33 years old. And at that time, I was still in the military. I had a 2-year-old and I had a 6-month-old. And I say that was my big, I think, everybody kind of hits a bump in the road, so to speak, and
Right.
you make decisions based upon that. I left the military and actually was looking for a job. And I found a job working as an attorney part-time at a law firm in Vermont for a few years. But to supplement my income, I also was asked to teach at a online university, some master's courses like in white collar crime, the death
Right.
penalty, things like that in their criminal justice program. And I just kind of into teaching and online, and I had an affinity for it. I really enjoyed interacting with the students, and it offered me a lot of flexibility to be able to stay home with my children while I was raising them as an only parent. And that's what just spurred my full transition into online education, because I had that flexibility to learn when I could. And then when I was 40, I decided to go back and get my doctorate. And I was still an only parent, and I was looking for a doctoral program that didn't require me to have to actually show up in person, and most
Hmm.
traditional institutions at that time didn't have that option. And Benedictine had just launched a online program where you had to come once a year at that time. So they had launched an EDD program. And so I took that. It was a 3-year cohort model. So you have to keep up. You go to school full time for 3 years. Like there's no
Yeah.
breaks. You just have to keep going. And if you don't keep up, then you get dropped back to the next cohort. And it was really amazing. There were these amazing women that I was with. So here I was raising 2 kids on my own, working a full-time job. My cohort had 25 students in it. And by the time we got to being ABD, there were only 11 of us left, and 8 of them were women. And during that time period, those women one had gone through a divorce, one was giving birth, right, in the middle of it. Another one had moved halfway across the country to start their lives over again. And we became so, even though we were all over the country, we became so committed to each other and our biggest cheering fans in terms of finishing your dissertation and doing that we all finished our dissertation within 6 months of being ABD. So, and I don't know if we could have done that without that support system. So I think a lot, it's just being open, and when you face challenges, to really take the road less traveled, I would say, and not be, I think people are afraid of being uncomfortable. People are afraid of being scared, but that's really how you learn, right? Is being in that uncomfortable space, taking those risks. I'll give you another example. When I went to University of Phoenix and I got offered the job there as an executive dean, which is like a general manager of 3 of their colleges, I had to move from Vermont to Arizona. I had never been to Arizona. I moved there. So I went from being a remote worker to having to be on site 5 days a week. And I left my children behind for 6 months with my parents in Vermont.
That must have been rough.
It was rough. It was really hard, but I don't think I would have been successful if I had to move across the country. I knew nothing about Arizona. I had no place to live. I was learning a new job, right? And my dad's such like the biggest feminist. He was just like, you go, we'll take care of the kids, and then they can fly out to meet you, in the middle of the school year. And they did.
That's awesome.
It allowed me to go out there, get settled, learn my job, find some place to live, find schools for them, everything else. And the same thing here when I took the job as provost at Capella. I commuted back and forth between Arizona and Minneapolis for 8 months after I took the job so my kids could finish out the school year. And my parents moved to Arizona to take them, and I would fly out every Sunday to Minneapolis and back to Arizona on Thursdays, and they let me work 1 day a week. And they took a chance on me because they had never, again, this is pre-COVID, they never had a remote worker at that level who could go back and forth, and everything worked out. And then my kids joined me after the school year was over. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'd never been to Minnesota, nothing about Minnesota.
All right.
But it was a job opportunity. And I always tell my kids, because you were in the military, you understand, you go where the job is.
Exactly, yeah.
And my kids have turned out great. Like, they turned out great. They're highly adaptable. They can talk to a rock. I mean, they can make friends with anybody. They can move anywhere, right? And they've just turned into great adults. So at the time, I had a lot of mother's guilt, I would say, for the choices that I made, but they don't remember any of it. They just know that I went somewhere and I had to do it because I had to put food on a table and a roof over our heads. So, and it all worked out.
No, I think that's a great story where, for one, just want to offer condolences for your first husband that passed away. But also, I think that's really a story of sacrifice, understanding, yes, in order to get to where you need to be, especially you're talking about, especially for your kids. I think kids are the biggest motivator, honestly. You find yourself doing things that maybe if you're by yourself, probably wouldn't do, maybe not as urgently. But we're talking about, real life stuff. Yeah, getting food on the table for them. Yeah, it's going to make you really hustle. So, no, I think that's a great story of sacrifice and determination to ensure that, because you're doing this for them, you want to make sure that they have also a good life. But also, of course, you still want to establish your career, because as you're establishing your career, that's going to help them as far as your kids to have them to have a good life as well. So it's pretty much equal to me. I think they complement each other, I should say.
Well, and if kids see you hustle and they see their parents hustling, right, and working hard and trying to make a better life for them and sacrificing, I think it really rubs off on them as adults as they get older, right? Because they understand, like, in this family, everybody works, right? We work hard at our jobs. We want to be good at our jobs. Like when I was getting my doctorate, I would sit down and do my homework at the table when they were doing their homework at night.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so
Yeah.
they were like, why are you going back to school? And they have no idea. And for years, they had no idea what I did for work. It was kind
Yeah.
of funny, right? They just knew I did something at a university, and that was it. But yeah, and now they're like, yeah, I had no idea, and I felt so bad at the time. Like when I was writing my dissertation,
Yeah.
I would lock myself in the basement on the weekends, and I'd write for hours at a time. And I remember my younger daughter, who at that time was like 4, would be crying and she has no memory of that. And I felt so bad at the time, and I thought, oh, I'm the
Yeah.
worst mother in the world. Yeah, no recollection. So this is why you shouldn't have mother's guilt, because they literally will not remember when they get old.
Right. Yeah. In that sense, I mean, that's a good thing that they don't remember.
Right.
I mean, I think, but also I think that's just human to feel that. But I think that helps that they don't remember it, so it doesn't you don't get reminded of it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think that's good. So, as someone leading a major university with so many innovative initiatives, like what is your go-to coffee or morning ritual that helps you stay energized throughout your demanding day?
So I'm a big coffee drinker. I do
Okay.
like flavored coffee. I know being an army person, I should just drink it black and straight up. But I
Yeah.
love flavored coffee. I love a flavored creamer. And so the first thing I do when I get up, I typically get up at 5 a.m., is I have a cup of coffee, and a big cup of coffee, uh, typically like vanilla flavored, or sometimes something even more girly like toasted graham crackers. And my husband's always like, "What are you drinking?"
Yeah.
I do that, and then I read the news, and I spend an hour
Yeah.
every morning reading the news while I drink my coffee before I go and work out. So, and then I have a huge, as you can tell here, I have a huge one that I make at home. I have a giant tumbler of
Oh
coffee
wow.
that
Okay.
I bring in with me every day, and I drink that. So I'm always fully caffeinated. How about you?
Well, first I gotta ask, is that full of toasted graham cracker in that one? Or
Today it's vanilla flavored coffee because I
oh, that
ran out
was
of toasted graham cracker.
okay. It's funny because I didn't start drinking coffee until I got into the military. So I went in the military right after high school. And before I used to think coffee was like, I thought it was like the worst
I
thing ever.
know, because I thought it tasted so nasty, and then I
Yeah.
didn't start drinking it either until much later in life.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was horrible. So I started drinking coffee, but then maybe I was more like you. I was putting a lot of creamer and stuff. Like I couldn't drink it black. I thought people who drank it black were like sociopaths. Like, yeah, there's no way. I don't know how you drink it like that. I even remember after I got out of the military when I worked at the VA in New Jersey, the VA hospital in New Jersey, and one of my former supervisors, he would always. 'Cause we had a Starbucks, within the
Oh,
hospital, so he always come up and he
very
has like,
dangerous.
yeah, he always had the venti, the
Oh,
biggest
yes.
Starbucks cup, just black, just full black, not like no sugar, no nothing. I'm like, man, how do you? I look at him like with disgust, like, how are you drinking this? Like, it's just black coffee. And now, fast forward a couple years later, now I'm doing it. So, but like for me, like my go-to, so I'm pretty much I'm like a coffee snob. Like I can't drink like if we're on a road trip and there's like a McDonald's, I can't drink.
Oh,
But that's
no.
probably like the
Not
worst.
either. No,
Yeah,
I
that's.
can't drink that
I'm sorry, McDonald's, but I can't do it. But no, well, for me at home, if I'm just do something at home, I have my own espresso machine.
now.
Yeah, I started out. I used to use a Keurig, but then I think that's a good way to work yourself into the coffee world. But after a while, we're trying to step up, using different, something a little stronger. So I found an espresso, started using an espresso machine. So I have that at home. But if I'm out and about, I do like to go to like local like mom and pop coffee shops, and I like for me like my daily driver is an americano, so I get like an americano. Yeah, I do it black, like no sugar. It's almost like you're drinking wine. You tasting the different blends and everything, So I don't want the creamer or sugar to mask it. I want to taste the actual coffee itself. So yeah, again, I'm
Yes, I like that.
coffee snob now. So, but last question here. What are some of your hobbies, interests, or recreation activities you enjoy, outside of work?
So, I am a huge traveler. I love to travel. Traveled a lot, probably because my dad was in the Army too. And
Right.
so he was in the Army for 25 years. And so I lived all over the world. I have lived in Germany. I've lived in Bulgaria, for example.
Wow.
Those are some
Okay.
really interesting places. I just took a trip. My last 2 trips, I went to Portugal and I went to
Nice.
Bali. So I have a map of the world and I pin everywhere that I've been. And so every year I try to say, where's somewhere I haven't been before? And that's like my big trip that I plan. So that's really what I do. I say that's my big hobby. I don't have a lot of time for hobbies, I can tell you as a president, but that is my big one luxury is a nice trip every
Yeah.
year, someplace I've never been before.
That's nice. So out of those trips, like what's been like your favorite? Like if you look back at it, like, maybe I'll go back there again.
Oh God, I really liked Portugal a lot. It was
Portugal.
amazing. I also really liked Italy and Greece.
Nice.
They were just both lovely. Bali was nice, but it's a very long trip to get to. Like you just don't go to Bali for the weekend because you have to like from where I am in Minnesota, I had to fly 14 hours from Minneapolis to Incheon, Korea, and then another 7 hours from
Uh,
Incheon to Bali. So it's a hike.
yeah.
It's yes.
Yeah. That is a long trip. Wow. But okay. No, well, that's amazing. So, Dr. St. Germain, it's been an amazing time having you here on the Cyber Coffee Hour. Enjoyed our conversation. But before I let you go, is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
I would just tell your listeners if I had to give one piece of advice, it would be always choose what's going to scare you. So when you come to
Mm,
that crossroads in your life and you have to make a decision, always take the one that makes you a little bit nervous, right? Because I think that's the one that's going to lead you to a lot of personal growth, a lot of career growth that's going to get you outside of your comfort zone and it's going to open up doors that you never imagined for yourself. And that's always how I've tried to live my life. And Georgia O'Keeffe, the painter, once said, I've been scared every moment of my life, but I never let it stop me from doing what I wanted to do. And so I think that's how you have to embrace life is by taking risks. And that's the only way that it'll turn out even better than you ever anticipated.
well said. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you to you as we wrap up another episode of the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Live Podcast Network. We hope you enjoyed our chat with Dr. Constance St. Germain. Don't forget, you can find more amazing shows like ours on the Live Podcast Network app. Now, if you'd like to show your support and keep the coffee brewing, you could contribute to the cause by checking out our link tree and donating to our Buy Me a Coffee platform. A huge thank you to all of our listeners. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the show. So until next time, stay safe out there and keep brewing. All right, it's a wrap. We out of here. Peace.